I just want to introduce you to a project that has been kicking around, been watching things happen, and we're finally launching it. So the project is called Census. It's a lofty goal to try to make data behave more like a currency, but our vision is that people are already making money off of your data. Facebook, Google, Uber, plenty of people sell your data. If you look at how much of your data is being used and how much people are earning off of you, it's somewhere between, I don't know, let's say 500 and maybe £1,000 a year, and that's just passive stuff that you're already doing. So the vision behind this is to try to allow people to use their data, but to be able to earn value for it, but also be able to spend that value a little bit quicker than you normally do. So I don't need to go into details about how data is the new oil, and if you looked at the highest valuation companies in the world 20, 25 years ago, you'd have like ExxonMobil, you'd have a lot of the oil companies, literally, because they're mining oil. Now, the companies that are on those lists are data companies. You have your Google, Facebook, all these, Apple, which is, again, all the Amazon, all these companies that rely on data. So I don't need to tell you, throw numbers around like it's $1 trillion opportunity and all that, because, everybody knows data is kind of a big deal. So the way it works now is it starts with you, the user. You're generating data probably now. You're being tracked by however many apps that you opted in and didn't read the fine print for. You're being tracked by us. We have your data. You registered here, so we know that you're here. Somebody might have even scanned your badge, so we know that you're here, and we know who isn't here. So you're the user. Then you have information about you that you're sharing. Cambridge Analytica probably has loads of data on you that they nicked from Facebook. So there's you. Your information, your actions, like, again, physically being here. We know that you're there. Your accelerometer probably on some apps lets people know that you're in this particular region, maybe not precisely. Then there's your services. How often do you log on to Facebook, Twitter, what you're sharing, all these sorts of things. And then also your devices. Do you have a connected TV with Google at home? There's so many ways that you're sharing data by doing the things that you're already doing. So we're not asking for anything new. We're just saying, hey, and let me ask you directly, how many of you earn value for your data? How many of you get something for your data? Thank you. So none of you. So that's the simple idea. We're hoping to change that. People are already using your data, so why not you get a cut? So that's where the concept of Census comes in. We want you to be able to actively say, yes, opt me in, or no, I don't want to share my data. And that's it, all the different data sources. So what we're trying to do is create one account where you could tap into the data that you're creating and link to it. Right now we've made the app, it's a basic app. So right now you can give us your basic information, take a survey, some demographic data, your name, your household, income, all these things, so that we can know who you are, so that we can then match you with people interested in buying. And by registering right now, you can earn points. And right now they're points because the regulation doesn't allow us to, or it's a bit gray area to distribute ERC20 tokens. So right now you're earning points, and in the future, once we do our token sale, you'll be able to buy the tokens with the points that you've earned. So right now you can get 500 points by signing up for the app, registering, and then another 1,000 by doing 5 referrals. It's just a basic way to get the alpha program live and to get some users. We launched it this week. We already have about 200-300 users, and we're piloting it now. So do check it out. Go to census.xyz, and if you want to get involved, you get some points. And it's probably a good way to get into crypto if you haven't done so. What we're working on at the moment is a few different ways. So we said one account to sort of get all your data. So we're working with telematics, which is like car data. We have a team working on that. You don't actually need a black box because all your phone has enough sensors in it to track your positions. Waze, Uber, a lot of these companies track telematics, and there's already software telematics available. So we're looking at a software solution. Health and fitness, again, if you're using like a Fitbit or one of these apps, we want you to link your account and be able to earn for that data. Smart TVs, the way that we do it through software is we can have an app inside an Android TV, or there's another way of doing it where you can track a database. You can subscribe to a database that your phone listens in the background, and then if you hear like the stinger for, I don't know, let's say Love Island, which some of you I know enjoy. How many of you watch Love Island? Thank you for admitting it. All of you do. I don't personally. But you get the stinger, and then it matches you with what you're watching, so you can actually track television viewing habits. Again, Nielsen is already doing this, but we're looking at a software version so that you can share what you're watching. There's already buyers for this sort of data, so we're only focusing on data that already has a buyer. Social check-ins, so if you say, hey, I'm at the cinema, watching videos, or even downloading white papers. These are all different ways to earn tokens, and we're working on different modules so you can have one account but earn for the data that you're already getting. So it's a basic premise. We start with users who want to earn and connect them with buyers who want valuable data. So the surveys tie up with market research companies, television with advertisers, check-ins with local merchants. But I'm going to focus on telematics and insurance because this is fintech, and insurtech is a subsector. So with fitness, we can, governments who, if you want to improve fitness, you can actually track that people are doing more running and exercising by giving them incentives to verify the fact that they're doing more movement. If you want people to walk 5 miles a day, you can actually track that and reward it, and you actually have a healthier population. So there's various groups that can get involved. You can also incentivize education. So if you wanted to do an education program where you teach people about malaria, you could actually get into their smartphones, offer them a tutorial about how to avoid malaria, and then when people answer the questions, they can then validate that they've done it, but also earn some tokens for doing so. And then also reading white papers and that sort of thing for crypto investors. So we're trying to isolate a few groups, but I'll walk you through an example of how the telematics for insurance works. So you start with the driver. How many of you drive? Good. So usually about 100 kilometers, 100 miles is good enough to track. So if you download the app, once we get the telematics feature, you're basically sharing your data, and on this end, on the other end, working with insurers A, B, and C. They pay to view your data, so you're actually getting a small payment for sharing your data, and then they can see whether you're a good driver or a god-awful driver. But both of those markets are worth something. Terrible drivers can't get that much insurance. So if you're a high-risk insurer, you can say, I'll take those guys, and I'm going to charge you this because nobody else is going to insure you. Or the companies can place bids and offers for the good drivers. This guy's really safe. He drives like, you know, he drives like a 90-year-old, well, like an 80-year-old grandmother. He's slow. He doesn't get into any trouble. So you could bid for the safest drivers as well. So this creates a marketplace, and then they pay again to make an offer. So what you end up getting is you're rewarded tokens for sharing, and then you're also given an offer by the insurer based on your driving profile. Right now, the way it works is you have to use a particular insurer's black box, and you're tied into their telematics driving program and get a lower rate. This starts before that so that the insurers can choose you based on your driving habits, and multiple insurers can choose you. And then you can get into their program, but this is a way, this is just an example of how it works. This is something we're having one of the teams look at building. So if there's any insurers out there and you'd like to run a pilot program, that's the next logical step that we're looking into. So where we're at. So right now we just launched the app last week. We have a few hundred users. We're trying to get our first 1,000 so that we can get this thing moving, get a bit of traction, get some data, and we can report back on demographics that we have. Next, we'll be working with the market research firms and insurance firms to do our pilots. We want to get all that going before we sort of start to tease our pre-sale for the crowd sale for the token later on in the year. And then beyond that is when we're looking to explore the app and the different ways to earn a little bit further. So there's a couple caveats. One is that we want users to be able to cash out their tokens to vouchers. in developing countries mobile top-ups, but also be able to convert them to crypto. Initially, we're not focusing on crypto, and we're not making this a big blockchain project because there's no reason to. It makes it more complex, and we're trying to focus on a service that doesn't need crypto, but where it would make payments easier in the future. The other caveat is that the alpha program offers points. They're not ERC20 tokens. They can be in the future in places where we're allowed to convert. In some markets, we won't be able to convert, so you'll only be able to do vouchers. We're trying to be as compliant as possible. The other is that the technical blockchain elements are being scoped out. We're actually exploring EOS as a platform for the token and also possibly for as part of the technical stack, because again, we want to try to do things new, and also I don't think the gas fees are on the same sort of level. They're a lot better with EOS.io, and then we're raising around and open to options, but we've been bootstrapping this all along. We have the app built, and we're moving quickly. We're promoting it at all our events that we do, so that's how we're getting users. So if you guys do go on census.xyz, download the app, Android or iOS. We have a pretty good team of advisors. We have AI, blockchain, because as we build the data, we want to make things a little bit easier. J.R. Willett is an advisor. He's actually the guy who did probably the first ICO in 2012. He did Omnicoin or Mastercoin. So he's a really smart guy. I met him a few times. He's based in Seattle. So we have a good team. We're also looking to build a team and trying to get as much help as possible and be as collaborative as possible. So if you want to get involved, do let us know. We're in the early stages. So that is Census. I think we have some time for questions, if anybody has any. Do we have any on the app?
Yeah, the questions, you have to put them on Slido. So if you've got a question, go onto Slido and send it in. So in the meantime, because no one's asked a question yet, Luis, one of the things that I've thought about with your project is the potential impact that it's going to have for poor people in emerging economies, because it seems to me that it can create an income stream for people who currently may not have income streams. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so that's one of the areas that we're looking into, because anybody with a smartphone can earn data, and as you know, smartphones have gotten ubiquitous. So in any part of the world, any developing country, you can share your data and earn tokens for it. So this is why doing education programs or on government education programs or even traditional education programs would be really good, because you can run campaigns, quiz people, have them learn, but also if they're sharing data from their mobile, locations, check-ins, all this stuff works locally. So it opens up a bit of a gig economy for anybody with data on their phone anywhere in the world. So that's it. We think that the potential, so one of the markets that we're trialing this in is in Lagos, Nigeria. We were just there in May and did a hackathon there. And it's one of so the two test areas that we're doing is London, UK, and then also in Lagos, Nigeria, we're pushing out the first so that we can test how it works in two different markets. But the developing world is one big area of opportunity for us, because we think that anybody with a smartphone can earn, and even if it's a small amount, it's actually worth a lot more in developing regions than it is in places where everything's expensive.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions coming in?
If you can ask about security and how's the data keep?
Anybody want to shout one out?
So there's a question just coming over. I think do people not know how to get onto Slido, or you really don't have a question? Hands up if you can't get onto Slido. Okay, so there's a few hands there. Can we have the slide, please, in the back there that's got the code for Slido, please? It's one of the first slides that we had up there. So just while we're bringing that, there's a data security question about your wallet.
So it is not going to be secure and hackable. No. It is, so right now we are, like I said, it's the alpha phase. So we're trying to do, it's a traditional app on Amazon servers, and it has traditional security. We haven't built the blockchain functionality yet. So right now we're working on this as if it's a traditional app with traditional security.
So can you put up this,
and standard security protocols. In the future, we're looking to allow people to actually hold their data in their phone in a walled area using blockchain where they can opt in and out, and we don't actually get the data. So that part hasn't happened yet. We'll evolve that part once we have a bit more of a critical mass and put the entire system on more of a blockchain immutable ledger platform with some encryption. But right now, it's probably like a traditional website where you have secure servers and you know, restricted access. Cool.
Okay, so if you go onto your browser, go onto slido.com, hashtag FTW, and then you can channel your questions through. In the meantime, if someone's got a question, if you want to just come up, we'll take it while we're working out how to get Slido working for us.
Cool. Yep.
So the question I have is around the security element, and it's more about how do you guys share my data with your insurance company? How do I prevent them if like using it or using it beyond what I specifically allow them to?
So your question is, how can you only share the data that you allow the insurer to see? So right now that's not an option because we're using, like I said, it's a traditional you know, security model. But in the future, what would happen is your data would be hashed. People could see certain parts of it, but not your personal identifying information. Kind of like with Bitcoin, the transaction data is available to some. So they would need to be a partner with us and have a key to be able to see certain elements of your data, and then they would need a slightly different level of access to be able to make you an offer and be able to contact you. So it's a multiple layer of access that's required. So obviously with blockchain and DLT, you can create those different levels. But at the moment, that's an area that we're exploring because there is an element of decentralizing the data through zero-knowledge proofs, where you can have a swarm of people who actually hold the data so that we don't use servers and provide access that way. So anybody could, almost like a Filecoin type system. Right now, we don't have the critical mass, and it's probably way more beyond the level of tech that we need at this point. But that's what we're looking towards in the future because we want to make it, we don't want to rely on servers, we want to make it a proper decentralized system that's secure.
Okay, so we've got the app working now.
Okay.
So we've got a question from Sarah. How is selling health data to insurance going to avoid discrimination and be ethical for the most vulnerable people?
At the moment, we're not trying to do much with health data because it's going to have to be on a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis. It's a very tricky area, and there's a couple companies already looking at health data. So right now, we're avoiding health data as much as possible. The closest thing to health data would probably be activity data, like running steps, all that sort of stuff. We don't necessarily want medical data at this point, not until we have a solid partner where we can actually build that chain of events.
Thanks. And we've got another question. How much could an average user actually earn sharing their data? So how attractive it is for me? Will I be able to retire shortly?
Probably not. Initially, it's about earning the points. And the way that it works is you can't just start sharing your data and you get a bunch of unstructured data coming into a feed. So the way it works is we work with the buyers to set the market price for what that data is worth and set all the parameters for what we're gathering and collecting, because if we don't have a complete data set, then it's not worth it to them. So the price is determined by the buyers. So at this moment, the insurance data, there's sort of a cost for customer acquisition. It's probably going to align closer with acquisition data for getting new customers. So it might be £50, that's the acquisition cost for a new customer in the insurance sector, whereas a bank might have a £200 data acquisition fee per new customer. So it's all going to be based on the market. I think realistically, somewhere between £200-300 or even £1,000 a year would be reasonable. But for high net worth individuals or crypto investors, there might be a higher bounty that people are willing to pay because the conversion of an investor coming onto a project is worth a lot more. So it might be that as an investor, you could earn X percentage or something slightly higher if you go through to a secondary level and it's validated.
Thank you. So another one, Census integrating with e-commerce and websites will help to understand users' behaviour. Is that your roadmap?
The roadmap is to get into B2B. We think that's where the biggest opportunity is, but without going through all the sort of compliance hurdles, the easiest part right now is to do a consumer product, prove it at the consumer level, and then scale it with B2B. So, for example, companies like Visa already sell retail data. This would be another avenue for Visa to sell that data. It's just a tokenized ecosystem. So it is on the roadmap. But right now, so we're focusing on the alpha phase and getting initial users so that we have a valid. I think, you know, as many of you know, anybody that's been looking at crypto, you used to be able to raise a lot of money on a dream. Now you need to prove it. So we're trying to prove it first and actually have a robust business case and traction before we hit the road. Cool.
That's about it.
All right, well, that's my time. I'll be around, and thank you guys again.
So thanks very much.